Good evening and welcome to the May 31st meeting of Public Works. I now call this meeting to order. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask that anyone else in the audience who is recording this meeting please identify themselves for the record now by standing and stating their name. I see nobody. At this time, I ask that all electronic devices be placed in silent mode. In attendance, we have Councilor Schultz remotely, Councilor Boschman, Councilor Cragen, and Councilor Squalia. The public has been advised to contact the city clerk's office regarding any comments of no more than 2 minutes. I invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to please approach the podium, identify themselves by name and address, and identify the agenda item on which they wish to speak.
Do we do that now?
No, we'll do that in just a moment. Okay. We're going to begin first with the approval of the previous meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion we accept the previous minutes.
Second.
Everybody? Okay. It's unanimous. Do we have any DPW updates at this time? Commissioner Erickson?
No more podium, I see. Good evening. So just like to update you on various happenings within the Public Works, Department of Public Works. So on the wastewater side, we have Polito & Sons Construction continuing their work on the combined sewer separation project. They've moved to the South Street and Laurel Street area. They closed the Water Street regulator just last week, I believe. So that's one less combined sewer overflow discharging to the Nashua River, which is excellent. They're still anticipated to be completed construction by the end of this summer. That'll be on to the next combined sewer separation project, which is currently in design phase. On the water side of things, our contractor KJS Construction has finished the construction of the new transmission main between the Falula water storage tanks and the Falula water treatment facility on Ringe Road. So that water transmission main is now fully operational, and that should allow the Falula water treatment plant to function at design capacity, which has been an issue since it was built in the early 2000s. On the cemetery side, we just got through Memorial Day. It was a big push to get everything looking its best for Memorial Day ceremonies. So congrats to all hats off to the hard work by the cemeteries division. I know they've been working like crazy over the past month to get all their cemeteries looking really nice for Memorial Day. On the DPW street side, we continue to work on sidewalks in the Day Street area. We're starting construction of a small retaining wall along the Rollstone Street roadside of the Forest Hill Cemetery to expand to accommodate approximately 700 more graves in the Forest Hill Cemetery. It's a necessary part of the expansion. We're down to about, I think, 150 or so graves remaining. So we need to complete that expansion so that we can have at least a few more years of being able to provide burials to the public. That's about it. Any other comments, questions? Happy to answer them at this time.
Councilor Boschman?
Just to let you know, I talked to you about by calls all parked there. Don't have to worry about it. It's all ledge up there. I went by there again. So the first 100 feet to 200 feet, it's flat, then it goes up and it's all stone.
Yeah.
But get back to the water source separation. Mm-hmm. The only thing I want to ask on this company, that when they go and put a sub patch on it, if they can come back, if we don't pave that road right away, to not let it happen like they did with Clarendon Street, so it won't be a roller coaster ride, that they come back and fix it and really pack it down really good, the best of their ability. So this way here, we won't have that problem. And that's what I'm worried about.
So we'll do our best. Our hands are a little bit tied due to the structuring of the contract and the agreement that was made between the previous Public Works Commissioner and the contractor, basically. So the contract only provides for what they call binder flush paving, so it's just a layer of binder flush to the top surface of the asphalt. It didn't include permanent trench patching for one reason or another. I don't have the answer as to why. All I can deal with is the after effects of it. So that's what we're struggling with on Clarendon Street. Luckily, we got funding to repave that. So I can't guarantee that all the trenches out there are going to come out perfect. It's just kind of the nature of how we bid the contract. All I can do is work to make sure it doesn't happen again in the future. So for future combined sewer separation projects, we're going to do one of two things. Either fully repave the whole road if the road's clear of any utility needs. If there are utility needs such as water or gas infrastructure that needs to be replaced, we'll include a permanent trench patch instead of just binder paving for the trenches. Hopefully that'll avoid future issues like that.
All right. That's all I'm more concerned about. I just don't want to have the people say they fixed it and then 6 months later, you're like Clarendon Street, up and down, even Lunenburg Street,
Yeah.
in front of Slattery's. There's a big dip. You know, and they paved that one, and it's, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Clarendon Street, it is bad, yeah.
All right, I yield the floor, ma'am.
Council Squalia?
Thank you. On what Councilor Bushman was saying, isn't it in our ordinance that a permanent trench, paving trench is required by utility contractors?
It is. For some reason, there was an exception made because of how the previous commissioner figured things out. So the agreement was between the contractor and the city to only include what's in that contract. So if we were to go above and beyond that, it would be a change order and cost extra money, which we don't have worked into the budget right now. So for some reason, former Commissioner Bosnetto agreed that binder flush was acceptable in lieu of a permanent trench patch. I don't have the answer as to why. I think he was just looking to save on costs,
Thank you.
unfortunately.
On the cemetery division and the parks division, the cemeteries all looked beautiful this weekend. I appreciate it very much, the hard work, and Heritage Flag Park, the flags being all put up for Memorial Day weekend and for the police memorial. We really appreciate that. It looks really nice.
Well,
So
thanks.
thank you for that.
All the credit's got to go to Jacqueline Poirier and her crew on cemetery side, and then Nate LaRose on the park side, making sure that all that looks its best for Memorial Day.
And on continuing on the parks, you know, we have a lot of parks, and the grass is growing very fast. And where are we on filling the vacant positions within the DPW? Where are we on mowing of the grass within the parks?
So we kind of just put out fires as of right now because we're not staffed up fully. On the park side, we have 3 park staff right now to take care of all the parks. We have 1 vacancy at the working foreman position that we're working with HR to hire for right now. Obviously, there's a little bit of a time commitment there before that actually gets filled. But I would encourage anyone that is at a park that needs to be mowed to email the mayor and CC me, and we'll try to prioritize it as quickly as possible.
Thank you. And when it, you know, looking ahead a month into the future, how are we with lifeguards and for opening the pool?
So we've advertised for lifeguards. I think we're struggling to find qualified personnel right now. Assuming we can find qualified personnel, we'll open the pool on schedule, but right now that's not looking like it's going to be the case. So if you know any lifeguard friends or people that need a summer job, please encourage them to apply with the city.
Thank you. And on the splash park, are the splash parks open daily?
They are open daily. I think Gary can maybe speak to this a little bit more as to whether they're open daily right now.
Pittsburgh's open daily, and Park Hill, I think it's open on the weekends with no bathrooms available, because there's no one manning it.
The Crocker Splash Park is open on demand every day from like 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. or some time frame. And then Park Hill is only currently staffed on the weekends?
That's not staffed on the weekends, it's open, but there's no restrooms.
There's no restrooms? Because I got a concern on Monday that Park Hill was locked on Monday.
Okay, well, I'll have to check in with Nate on that one.
Okay,
I'll do that and get back to you.
thank you.
Yep.
And where are we currently with the streetlight bid contract?
So the contract has been signed. Our engineering staff are trying to coordinate a kickoff meeting right now with PRT is the name of the company, Pine Ridge Technologies. So hopefully that kickoff meeting will happen this week. And once that happens, then we're going to give them our entire backlog and prioritize the Main Street and River Street areas and work our way down the list from there.
So approximate time frame of when when I can tell people that the lights will start to get worked on?
I think last meeting you asked me that, and I said a few weeks. Obviously, we're past a few weeks, so I'd rather not continue to say a couple weeks, but hopefully a couple weeks. I know the email's already been sent out with available times to meet this week. Hopefully, we have the meeting this week. I don't know what PRT's backlog is with other companies that they serve. Hopefully, they can get someone out here within a few weeks after the kickoff meeting.
Is Pine Ridge Technologies the same firm that we have been using?
Daigle Electric was the previous contract holder, so PRT is new to streetlights in the city, but they currently have an on-call maintenance contract for traffic signals with the city, so they're not new to Fitchburg.
And is this a one-year contract or a multi-year
It's a
contract?
3-year contract. Yeah.
Excellent.
So hopefully we won't have to go through these delays again until 3 years has elapsed. And by then, hopefully, we're in a situation where we can get out ahead of it and have the contract bid out and assigned before the previous one fully expires.
Thank you. And where are we on hiring of a city engineer, assistant city engineer, to allow you the time to provide us DPW updates on a regular basis?
So I'm still working with HR to get that posted. We've just made an offer letter for Deputy Commissioner Wastewater. So Mark McNamara, who was the former plant superintendent at the East Wastewater Treatment Plant, has been promoted to that role. We just signed an offer letter for the new sewer system manager. So Kenny DuPont, who was the GIS engineer in the wastewater division, is now the sewer system manager. So next, we're working on the assistant city engineer. So hopefully within the next month or so, we'll see an advertisement, and then however long it takes after that for hiring.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm all set.
Thank you.
Councilor Fleming, I had a question.
Counselor Schultz?
Thank you. I'll put my hand down. Commissioner Erickson, I was wondering if, on Forest Hill Cemetery, is there any status update about expanding across the street on Electric Avenue?
So back when Lenny Laxo was commissioner, he had done a kind of a feasibility study and master planning project. And we have the documents from that, but we don't currently have the funding to advance that forward. We need to secure that funding in order to complete the engineering design of the site across the way there. But there's been some concern with how expensive it might be, just due to the topography out there and presence of groundwater, location of a stream on the property, and so on and so forth. So some of those site constraints are driving the cost up. Obviously, the longer we wait, the more expensive it's going to be. So if you can figure out a good funding source to move forward with that design, we're happy to do it. But right now, I see a lot of other priorities within the city, and I don't necessarily see that effort moving forward anytime in the near future.
You mentioned that we're going to be running out of room for graves soon. I was just wondering if maybe you could put together a proposal for the design for an opera proposal next year.
We are considering that. So the trustees of cemetery, or trustees of public burial grounds, have expressed an interest in doing the same thing, putting together a proposal for the next round of ARPA funding. In the original language that kind of defined how you could use ARPA funds, cemeteries were left completely out of that. Since then, that language has been modified and includes new language which might qualify cemeteries, and especially expansion of burial areas. So we're looking to do that probably in January or thereabouts, whenever the next round of ARPA funding is released. Obviously, that's not a guarantee, but certainly something worth pursuing.
Yeah.
Right now, the expansion that we're proposing is that area right across from Memorial Middle School. So we've got a small amount of funding set aside to finish that. So it involves constructing a retaining wall, bringing in some fill, adding some drainage, installing some landscaping and pathways and whatnot. And we're estimating that'll get us approximately 700 graves, which should last us another 3 to 4 years tops. So it'll buy us some time, but it's definitely not a permanent solution.
Yeah, long-range planning would be to expand across the street.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nick.
And one other thing, Counselor, the other issue that you'll probably be seeing some more about later on in the year during a presentation to City Council is there's a mausoleum building at Forest Hill that's in very, very poor condition. We're estimating it probably needs $1 million or $2 million worth of investment to bring it back to, good quality. But that's another issue lacking funding at the moment within the cemeteries division.
So with the new language, you might be able to apply for ARPA funding for that as well, is what you're saying.
Not necessarily for that. So I think for the expansion of the grave site, we can make the argument that COVID has increased the increased the rate of burial and demand for burial plots. But because the mausoleum is a building and not necessarily something that the common citizen uses to bury their loved ones, it's not something that would necessarily qualify, at least based on the language in the current ARPA rules.
Yeah.
So that's something we've discussed.
That's subject to change though, right?
Hopefully, we've discussed it a little bit with community development and the trustees, so we're looking at that, but right now we think that the expansion across the way might qualify, but not necessarily the mausoleum building. So we've got to identify 2 funding sources. ARPA might be able to be used for one of them. The mausoleum, I think we're going to need to look elsewhere.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Cragan?
Thank you. I just wanted to commend DPW and the city for opening a new playground. The Sam Pollack Playground opened a couple of weeks ago. It is beautiful. It has all kinds of apparatus for, every kid. And, it's really beautifully done. It's done with a lot of love and care. So really, really great job on that. And I wanted to piggyback on what Councilor Schultz was saying. I had a long conversation with the cemetery commissioner, who I speak to a lot because of the historical research that we do at the Historical Society and Stratton Players. And we have fewer than 200 graves left at Forest Hill. We have, I think it's over 600 spaces in the what is it? Not the crematorium.
Columbarium.
Columbarium, thank you. And not everyone wants one versus the other. So I'm glad that we're talking about this. I have encouraged the trustees and others. I think it is time to have a separate standalone organization that would work for the betterment of historical cemeteries such as Forest Hill. And I know that there are going to be vacancies on the trustees, and it's a really great group for people who love history. And Forest Hill, by the way, just looked wonderful. I have family in the oldest part of it, and then I have family in the Rollstone Road side of it. And I don't know how you guys do it. I really don't, with the staffing. I mean, to cover 54 acres the way you do, but it's beautiful. Well done.
Thanks. Thank you. And credit for the new playground also goes to community development, who worked hard to make sure that we had the grant funding in place and to execute the design of that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. I also want to comment on all the, obviously, everybody can see all the work that's being done in the city. I said it's amazing. It's just incredible to see what's going on in the city. I've been here 37 years, and to see the city evolving the way it is. There is some inconvenience to us for the work they're doing, but they're doing this post-COVID with many shortages in all the departments in our city, and we thank you for all your hard work. And you do it with a smile.
Thanks.
I know sometimes you just want to go, "Arr."
Oh, and I did forget to mention probably the most visible project that we have right out here, the Main Boulder Two-Way project. So just an update on that. We're progressing, trying to meet our June 30th deadline with the grant funding. We've got a contractor replacing the water mains on Cushing Street, and that'll probably be the last piece of the project, is the transformation of Cushing Street into a pedestrian plaza, and then improvements to the Mill Street area too. One of the issues that we're running into is obviously the supply and demand problem. Streetlights have been on back order. I think some of them came in, but the ornamental ones that are proposed to replace the concrete light poles on Main Street have not come in yet. We're hoping they come in middle of this month. So it'll be kind of a race to finish all that work prior to June 30th. And then in the meantime, we'll be looking to enact ordinance changes separately to allow for the change in the traffic pattern that we see out here on Main and Boulder. So those will be dealt with in separate committee meetings, including Public Works. But
Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to move on, and the way I'm going to conduct these petitions is I'm going to read the petition and then ask if there's anybody wishing to speak on them. This way, when the petition is up, the people that are involved can speak during that time. So we're going to begin with petition 02722, Councilor Derek Cruz, on behalf of the resident Basan Awad of 8 Boylston Street, to install a streetlight on telephone pole number 4 on Boylston Street. Councilor Cruz?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Awad reached out to me a little while ago and said that it's very dark where his children and some other neighborhood kids play, and he hoped that they'd be able to put a street light in there. I went to go check it out. It is rather dark there. It doesn't fit, as Councilor Bushman brought up previously, we do every other street light, and there is a light towards the middle of the street, but I guess it's not really where the kids congregate and they play. So I thought I'd put the petition in through Public Safety and Public Works, and here we are before you to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilor, Commissioner Erickson?
So I guess my only question, so we went out there during the daytime to check it out. We noticed that there's streetlights, every other per our typical standard. But we didn't go out there at night to observe, obviously, because it's light out pretty late at night nowadays. Just wanted to try to get your feelings on whether you really feel it's necessary for public safety, or if it's just something that a resident wants, because why not ask for it?
Right. I went out there at night, like I said. Thanks, Commissioner. And it's rather dark. I think there are other avenues that maybe we could take, either putting lights out there themselves, or asking the kids to kind of congregate in another area. But I told them I would put the petition through, so I did. And here we are.
Councilor Squalia?
Yeah, I didn't go out at night, but I went out during the day to look at it, and there's a light right on the corner at the pole, and then the next pole is number 4, and then the very next pole is another light. So it does seem per our guidelines of every other pole. I don't know, I didn't go at night, so I can't, but they seem very close together. The poles aren't particularly far apart. So it doesn't seem necessary to put a light there. But like I said, it didn't go at night.
Councilor Boishman?
Make a suggestion. The light on Harbor Street should actually be turned a little bit, so it'll be on the corner of Boylston Street, and that would help there. I think I'm not going to support for a light fixture on that street. There is one. Unitum moved number 4 and pushed it down in front of the gate. Remember, we voted on that, and they was all happy because they put the lines in the ground. But I think once they develop up there and they rent out or sell those condominiums, I think that whole area will brighten up, because I believe there'll be lights so people can see, so it'll be bright enough. But to say, for me to support this petition, I'm not going to support it. Because you get one every other post. And if you turn that probably 60 degrees, it's pointed this way, right on Harbor, and you put it on an angle, you get light that way. Or put brighter light bulbs in. I got no problem with that if you want to put a brighter bulb in there. Other than that, but to say we're going to go and put another lamp out there, not even 50 feet apart, no. I'm not in favor of it. I won't support it.
Anybody else wishing to speak?
Yeah, I'd like to speak.
Councilor Schultz, I
Councilor
can't
Fung.
see if your hand's up.
Yeah, it's up.
Okay.
I'll
Oh, there
lower
it
it
is.
now. Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, I was going to ask Commissioner Erickson if there's some other way, Councilor Boishman mentioned putting a brighter bulb. Is that something possible, that the closest pole would have a brighter light than what is there now, or some other maybe less expensive option that we could come up with to help alleviate this issue, Commissioner Erickson?
So I'll have to see what type of fixture is up there, but oftentimes we can install a higher wattage fixture that would make it a little bit brighter, so that could certainly be an option. I like Councilor Boschman's suggestion too, to wait until that development is finished over there to see if it lights up the area well enough that another street light's not necessary. So I guess based on what I'm hearing, I suggest holding this until the next Public Works Committee meeting, let me look into two options, either the possibility of a new fixture that's brighter, or possibly rotating it, what did you say, 60 degrees or so, so that
Yeah.
it faces the Boylston Street side instead of the Harvard Street side.
Yeah, right on the corner, like you did on Electric Ave and Franklin Road, you moved it. Instead of shining on Electric Ave, you moved it, so it's shining on both Electric and Franklin Road. And it seemed to work good.
I could check that out, and I can make some time to go out there after dark and assess the situation again myself, and I apologize for not having done that before this meeting. It's just been a crazy month. So that
I
would
make a
be my
motion, I make a
suggestion.
motion to hold this petition until Commissioner Erickson can conduct his investigation.
Just have a question before the motion. The bulbs that we use for the city, I was told when we put them in that we could control how they dim, the strength of the light. Are the lights currently at full strength, or do we operate, the city at half strength? Could we maybe just control through the light monitoring system, increase the light that way?
So right now, they're all set at 50%, I believe. Don't quote me on that exact percentage, but I think that's where they're set. And I think we have an agreement with Unitil such that we'll keep them at 50%, and that's an agreement with whatever billing was set up back in the day when we switched over to those LED fixtures. Because I know for Halloween a couple of years ago, we actually brightened up all the bulbs to 100% for trick-or-treating. So that's a good point, too. Maybe just brightening the ones in that area would solve the problem and address the residents' concerns. So I can add that to my investigation, too. So I'll look at 4 different things then. So I'll look at strength of the bulb, positioning of the arm, how it looks just right now at night, and then whether it's possible to brighten the wattage on that individual bulb, and if that's going to cause any issues with unit bill us or anything like that.
Sounds good.
So I have a motion to hold. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. What's your name is?
Yeah, on the motion, thank you very much for hearing it out, and for Commissioner Erickson for his time already and the time he's going to put in. I just want to note that, as you know, counselors, when we get a concern and it involves children, we take it very seriously. So thank you for your input, and I hope that we can help solve that and we can keep our kids safe on the streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Cruz. Petition 93-22, Councilor Sam Squalier, on behalf of resident Nick Haynes, to add a 4-way controlled stop at the intersection of Victoria Lane, Industrial Drive, and Game On Way. During times of heavy traffic flow in or out of our Game On facility, residents of Victoria Lane do not have the right of way to cross, and thus wait for long periods of time while traffic lines go through. If a 4-way stop sign is not feasible, an alternative solution shall be investigated by the city. Now, I believe this was referred to public safety and then referred to DPW before public safety.
Yes. So I'm all for conducting some sort of a traffic study to evaluate improvements for that intersection. I'm not sure a 4-way stop will be feasible, just because those are generally, they have to meet certain warrants similar to a traffic signal and whatnot. And I don't believe it will meet those warrants, but I agree it's a problem for the residents up there, especially when there's a large tournament or something like that, and we should do everything we can to improve their situation. So what I would propose is that we were allocated $100,000 towards traffic signal repairs, and I would propose using some of that money towards conducting this traffic study to figure out a solution here. I think it's a similar use of funds and shouldn't be a problem.
Councilor Boishman?
When we were at the meeting, at the safety meeting, Sergeant Brugel said that Game On's gonna pave their road. And they have, right now, they have a stop sign behind the tree, and they're hoping that they take that stop sign and put it in front so people can see it, so they'll stop. But he already said that a 4-way stop sign doesn't meet the criteria for putting in a 4-way stop sign. So to be honest with you, I prefer, if we're gonna do that for a 4-way stop sign, I would not want to waste the money.
So I think, so there's two separate issues here. There's the four-way intersection at Industrial, Victoria, Roper, and Game On Way.
Right,
That's
I've
the
been up
first
there.
four-way intersection. The stop sign that you're talking about that's mounted on a tree right now, that's actually on Game On property as you're exiting, going through
Right.
that gate. So I think Game On is still planning to cut that tree down and install that stop sign in a proper fashion. But because that's on private property, it's not on a public way, and it's not a stop sign that we can regulate as a city through the police department. So that's kind of a separate issue. The traffic study that I'm proposing is just limited to that four-way stop, or four-way intersection, rather, at the intersection of Roper, Industrial, Victoria, and Game On. So just be looking there, looking at the trips generated by the Game On facility and the neighborhood and the businesses that are there, the timing that all the trips occur and all that, and figuring out whether a four-way stop is appropriate, or maybe it warrants installation of a signal or something like that. So that would be my proposal, to look at that intersection in particular.
What about a roundabout?
Wouldn't necessarily be a bad option as long as we have the right-of-way space out there, but that would be one of the things to look at as part of that whole study. And I'd feel better subbing that out to a consultant versus doing it in-house, just to eliminate any sort of bias or anything like that. So that's why I'm proposing to use some of that $100,000 that was allocated for traffic signal maintenance to figure out how to best handle the traffic at that intersection.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
I just want to speak first. I agree with Commissioner Erickson. I do believe we need to do a traffic study up there. It's very dangerous up there. I've been up there at the height of the tournaments when the traffic is just unbelievably just chaos. Even though it's organized chaos, it's chaos. And I believe a traffic study is definitely needed to ensure everybody's safety, not just the residents, but the people going in and out of that facility. Thank you. Councilor Squalia?
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. I agree that we should have a traffic study for that intersection. But I just want to note, the wording, the first thing that came to my mind was a four-way stop. But I recognize that it likely doesn't meet the criteria for a four-way stop. That's why I noted if it's not feasible for an alternate solution. But I'm not a traffic engineer, so, if we can have an expert look at this, that would be best. I don't know if it's, yield signs or maybe a box, that's painted in the road that you do not cross the box until, I don't know what the solution is, but I think that we should have a traffic study to determine that, because during periods of heavy traffic flow, either in or out, these people that live there could wait up to 15 minutes before someone actually lets them out. Because, there's just traffic backed up all the way down the street. So if there's some way we can alleviate that and just allow them a way out or in, then I think that we should work to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I agree. So I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm a civil engineer, but I don't specialize in traffic. I work well with Sergeant Boudreau in the traffic division for FPD, and most traffic situations are very practical, common sense type approaches, just looking at the data and sight lines and all that. Generally, you can figure it out just by reading the MUTCD and being practical. But this is a pretty unique situation where you have an industrial park, a residential neighborhood, and then a Game On recreational facility that has a huge fluctuation in the number of patrons that visit at any given time. It can be, a handful of people during the week to, 5,000 cars on the weekend. So I think it's a special situation that warrants us hiring an expert to look at. And like I said, having a third party conduct this analysis eliminates any sort of bias between the city, the residents, the Game On facility. I think it's the way to go.
So we want to entertain a motion to hold pending the traffic study.
Motion to hold.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, petition 10822, Counselor Fleming, on behalf of the residents of Stony Brook Village, to remove 32 trees which are causing the sidewalks to be impassable for children living in the area due to the uprooting and erosion. Now, before we go on, there has been a little tweak to this petition, which Public Works is aware of. I'll let the residents speak on it, but we're trying to find another solution rather than removing the trees, because we know it's not good for us to remove all those trees up there, and for the environment. So they have come up with some solutions, and I'm going to let each of them speak. So how many do we have that are going to speak tonight? Three. Okay, I'm going to actually have you all come up to the table at the same time, and then have you state your name and the address, and then speak to the petition. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Linda Allaire. I live at 92 Village Crossing. I'm one of the officers of Stony Brook Village Homeowners Association. We are an association. At our meeting in January, we have a yearly meeting. One of the homeowners brought up the possibility of getting the sidewalks fixed. The sidewalks, as they are right now, are really not walkable. The trees have grown. They're 30 years old. They've grown so big that they are really buckling all of the sidewalks. So we put the petition in more or less to let you know that there are 32 trees there. Is the answer to remove them all? No, we don't really feel that that is so. But we would like there to be maybe some solution or some something done to make the sidewalks passable. As it is right now, everyone has to walk in the street. It's dangerous for the children who are walking to school. They have to get the school bus at the entryway to Stony Brook, so they have to walk in the road. But you know, the school buses come so early that they're walking at the same time as people are going to work. And it is dangerous for them. So we're asking if there is something that the city can do to make those sidewalks passable or repair them in some manner. And if some of the trees have to come down, we would understand that, but we don't really want to have all 32 of them taken down. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
you're welcome.
My name is Jennifer Barlow. I live at 220 Stony Brook Road. And, well, first, I want to say thank you to all of you. I don't really come to these meetings very much, and it's always wonderful to see all of you are working so hard to handle so many issues and improvements around the city within the resources that you have available to you. So it's just much appreciated. I want to speak just to say that I'm not in favor, speak on behalf of myself and some other neighbors that are not in favor of taking down the trees, especially the ones in front of our homes. I think it would significantly change the tenor of the neighborhood. If anything, I would want more trees. There's some sections of Stony Brook that are treeless, and when you are walking and it's sunny, it's like it's a gauntlet to go down. It's very hot in the summer and cold in the winter, and certainly wouldn't want to have that in other areas. Certainly, we all can observe places in Fitchburg where the trees and the sidewalks are coexisting happily, so it seems like it's worthy to look for alternative solutions to making sidewalks safe, but to, preserve as many of the trees as possible. So I'm glad to hear that the petition is amended. I would like to hear if it has been amended, how it's been amended.
Well, the email that you got, we attached it to the.
Okay,
to
so
the
the petition
petition.
amended, so.
Mrs. Alaire sent me an email to revise it. I sent it to DPW
Okay.
to give them a heads up what they were thinking, because initially this is the way I had written it, and it was approved.
Yeah.
So
It wasn't approved.
it was approved from the committee of Stony Brook
To go
to submit it
to public.
the way I submitted it. And then they've come back to me this weekend asking it be amended for this meeting, which I sent to DPW.
Yes, I appreciate very much Linda sent around the agenda, and, those of us saw the agenda, we said, wait, we don't want to remove the trees. No, we don't want that. So I appreciate your time in listening
Thank
to
you.
us. Thank you.
My name is Peter Allaire. I live at 92 Village Crossing. I'm a retired lieutenant from the fire department, and some of my colleagues have informed me that due to the trees in that area, that the ladder truck, the tower ladder, cannot commit itself or cannot be committed down that street. Due to the low-hanging limbs, the numerous number of trees, and the sighting of some of the trees blocks the houses from having the ladder put to the buildings. I'm not here in favor of the petition or against the petition. I'm only here giving you some information on the safety of the ladder truck being able to respond to that location.
Thank you. Councilor Boishman?
I just want to say one thing to the committee. I was up there today, and I'm very happy that you don't want all the trees down, because I'll be quite frank with you, I was going to vote no on the issue, because I looked at my Pratt Road, and they cut down a lot of trees. Yeah, it makes it nice, but it takes away the beauty of the neighborhood. And my other big concern would have been, how about if I lived up there and I had a tree for privacy, why would I want you to come and take that tree down so everybody can see what I'm doing for privacy purposes?
And I understand that. We have 87 homes in Stony Brook Village.
Yeah.
All right. There are, and not every person that lives there was able to attend the meeting. So at the meeting, it was voted on that we put this petition into the city and ask them what could be done about the trees along Stony Brook Road. So we do, and this is only a small portion. The 32 trees, that is really about 30, no.
Yeah, it's one side of the
It's just one
street.
section and one side of the street.
Right.
So we have heard from a few members, or 3 or 4 people who weren't at the meeting, who said that they either understand or wouldn't want the trees to be taken down. My answer to them was, we're going to talk about this. The city isn't going to come down and take all the trees down at the same time. It's something that we would like the city to look at and to give us an answer on what would be the best way to proceed, working together.
No, I just wanted to tell them what I was going to do. I'm very
All right,
happy.
just didn't know if you
I
had
told her
anything
that I
else you
was
wanted to
very
add.
happy they changed their proposal. They changed their proposal.
Yes.
That made me very happy.
Councilor Squalia?
Thank you. I spent about a half an hour driving around and trying to find people to talk to.
Yeah, oh, no, bad time.
Yeah.
You were just up there.
Yeah.
My neighbors called me and said, Sam Squalia's here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I saw Phil. I thought.
Yeah.
And so he shared the concern of the tree branches being low for the ladder truck. And I said that should be a simple, we have a tree contractor with the city that should be able to trim trees. However, removing all the trees would be a very expensive endeavor, because really we'd want to remove the tree and then grind the stump below, remove all the roots, repair all the sidewalks, and there, like you said, 32 trees. There might even be, more trees than is exactly on this list that are actually damaging the sidewalk too.
No, that's the only side we have the sidewalk on. That's phase 2 of Stony Brook. Phase 1, it doesn't have trees. The trees that they put in phase 1 were on the opposite side of the street, so they didn't tear up the sidewalk.
I was just looking at about 151 Stony Brook Road. There's another tree that's not on the list that is also damaging the road. But yes, that would be very expensive, and there's a lot of trees. And the trees really make...
51 is private property, that's private, that's not, I understand that, but that's, actually, I guess.
Well, it's across the street
yeah,
from
okay.
151. Yeah. But, so that would be a very expensive endeavor, and then we'd want to replace the trees, and we'd need to dig new boxes for the trees so they don't grow into the sidewalk or into the street. I mean, it would be...
And as I was explaining to Marissa is, we've been in Stony Brook for 30 years. When Stony Brook came about, there were a lot of young families, and there were, a lot of kids, and as time went on, all those people moved out, and there was more of an older people that lived there and whatever, but now a lot of young families are moving in. To say that we are now getting a lot of children, and I've had people email me and say, oh, what a great idea, when we take our kids out on our bikes, we're just afraid to have them in the street, we'd like to let them ride on the sidewalk, little kids. Or, we take our grandchildren out, we can't walk on the sidewalk, we have to walk on the street. And it is dangerous. It is dangerous for everyone involved.
It's a clear problem. Almost every tree you can see is damaging the sidewalks, clearly lifting up the asphalt sidewalks.
Some worse than others, but yes.
Yes. And I spoke to 7 residents of the 7. None of them wanted the trees cut down, but all of them understood if we had to. So they understood, but they like the trees and they like the character of the neighborhood that the trees bring. So I don't know exactly the solution, but I would think that if there's something that we can do to repair the sidewalk without cutting the trees, that would be everyone's preferred solution.
Correct. I mean, if a couple had to come down, we would understand that, but I mean, we don't want 32 removed, and I guess that was just our miscommunication on what we were doing, so.
Gary?
Yeah. Okay, good. I don't know.
He can have
Right
that.
there.
Oh, you can keep that.
I found that already.
Okay, thank you.
I'm the tree warden.
Oh, hello.
Basically, you need my approval to cut them down,
Okay.
and never get it.
And never get it, okay.
My way to fix this, okay, is raise the canopy up on both sides of the road. The canopy is the bottom tree, the bottom branches. Raise them up so the trucks can go by, because we also have a problem plowing that street,
Yes, you do, yeah.
okay?
Right. And so do the rubbish trucks that come through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we will trim the sides to make it wider. And as far as the sidewalks go, piecemeal. It says in this, how to repair, and I agree with it. You tear out the sidewalk, you raise it up, so the roots are still there and pave over it.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. I mean, we would love that.
I've also learned about, alternatives to regular pavement that would
Yes.
allow the air and the water to come through.
But we'd have to do the trees on both sides, not just the one side
Oh,
with
yeah,
the
oh, no,
sidewalk.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
This is a great little neighborhood, and I would hate to see all those trees come down, but as you were my constituent, so I had to present it the way you asked me to present it, whether I agreed with it or not.
And again, I had to present it as
Right.
was presented at our meeting.
And what was
so-
funny is I had somebody from a different part of the city, but in my ward, actually comment on this. They were very upset about this petition that I had put in, and then I had received the email asking to amend this
it was-
petition.
It was-
So
if you could amend it to trim all the trees.
So we first want to take a vote on amending the petition to trim the trees and to,
Oh, we'll automatically raise the canopies.
and raise the canopies.
So moved.
What does that mean, raise the canopies? Trimming the
Taking out
lower
bottom
branches?
branches
The
to bring it
bottom
up
branches.
higher so the trucks can go under. We did it 8, 9 years ago.
It's sort of like a
It's
haircut.
been a while since
It's
we've been
been a
up there
while.
doing it.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a
But we
while.
did raise the canopies at one point.
Yeah. And some of the neighbors will trim the trees, you know,
take
in
care
the,
of it. Oh.
but no, I mean, they will do their own, but they
Yeah.
can't get up high enough.
Right.
You know, and the biggest offender is at the curve. At the curve where the trees come together. And that's really what the fire department is saying. They can't get through.
We'll widen the street up.
Okay, that'd be great.
So amend to raise the canopy
Yes? And then we're
And-
going to piecemeal the sidewalks, you said.
and raise the sidewalks as
Sidewalks would be a
required.
different petition at that
Yeah,
point.
okay, all right. So would we submit another petition for that? Is that what, okay, all right.
all right.
Because
So
this
I
one here is
can,
just for the trees.
all right,
Okay.
all right, very good. All right, so we're going to amend.
Move to amend to raise the tree
Before we take a
canopy.
vote, I want to make sure I understand what he says, raise the canopy.
Cut
When
off the
you-
lower branches to bring it up so the bottom branches are about 8, 9 feet high.
Oh, okay, all right, all right.
Or
now I
facelift for the
understand.
trees.
Okay. I thought they were going to just get a machine to just pick it up.
Oh,
You would also include that you said you were going to widen it?
Right,
too,
we'll
so it's
trim-
not
Right, the ones that stick way out will trim up.
yeah, because if I understand, you have to do this a certain way, otherwise you do kill the tree if it's not
Yes,
done
we'll have our
properly.
tree contractor. do
Yeah.
it.
So, okay, so we have,
Move to amend to raise the canopy of the trees.
Second,
all those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
And then move to approve the amended
amendment.
petition.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
You would be.
It's approved.
So the sidewalks is a new amendment?
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to resubmit a petition for the sidewalks. because this was actually just about the trees. So now I'll submit for the next meeting, the sidewalks. And I will send it to Linda in order to approve it before I submit it.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome, thank you.
Having a separate petition for the sidewalks will let us kind of use a different funding source to address just the sidewalks too, so it gives us a little more
Have you had
flexibility.
a chance to go up and look at them?
I have, yeah. Yeah, it's rough in spots. The tree roots just, they're ruthless. They just keep growing and don't
Right,
stop. so.
and most of the houses are up high, so it isn't a problem. I had a couple of homeowners told me that it had gotten into, and they had to call Roto-Rooter to, it had gotten into their systems. so-
Yeah, into their sewer
Yeah,
laterals.
into their sewer
Yeah,
lines, yeah. So,
yeah.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're very welcome.
Petition 140-22, Counselor Bernie Schultz and Police Sergeant Boudreau to erect "No parking from here to the corner" signs that measure 50 feet from the corner at all four corners of Charles Street at the intersection of Charles Street and Forest Streets.
Yes, so I went out to visit the site with Sergeant Boudreau, and I agree with the need to erect the "No parking from here to corner" signs at the specified intersection. It shouldn't be a problem for us to complete this work in-house, and I think it'll help with sight lines at that intersection, because it is a problem under current conditions. People often park there, and it blocks the sight lines, and it would be better to have those cars move back from the intersection and allow people to look both ways before they keep going through that intersection. A lot of times people speed, which is a whole separate enforcement issue, but this will at least help improve the safety there for cars looking to go straight through.
Thank you. Counselor Boishman?
I'm in favor of this petition, believe it or not. Bernie, I'm in favor of your petition, so you don't have to worry about
It's got to
that.
be a first. It's got to be a first.
But my question to you is this: will you paint the corners so you'll know, so people will know how far back? You know, you get the yellow paint that you can't park there. Will you do that there?
Hadn't planned on it. What type of painting are you looking for? Just like a yellow stripe along the side of the road?
On the side there where you can't, like, some places you get yellow, so you can't park where there's yellow.
Oh, you're talking like the yellow hatching?
Yeah.
We weren't planning to do that. That's just another thing that we have to paint every year that's
All right.
adding to our
I just thought you paint the curb.
So I have to look out there. I don't think there's necessarily a curb at all four corners. If there is, we could consider painting it. I don't want to do any hatching on the ground.
I don't
That's
want
just
that
something
either.
that's never going to get repainted, and it's going to be a constant maintenance headache. But the signs will at least give the police department enforcement authority, because if there's no signs, they can't tow, they can't ticket. The signs at least give them the authority to do that. Once people get a ticket the first time, typically they learn their lesson and move further back. So that's the idea behind the signs, at least.
I make a motion we accept, if nobody got any questions.
I have a comment to make, Councilor
Counselor
Fleming.
Schultz?
Yeah, I was there with Commissioner Erickson and Sergeant Boudreau, and, you know, the cars park constantly. I've been keeping an eye on that intersection for a while, and they just park very close to the corner. There's a couple of odd buildings, square buildings on those corners, and it really is a traffic nightmare. And also, Sergeant Boudreau is going to try to put one of those speed signs to try to tell people how fast they're going on down Charles Street, because that's another separate problem besides the people parking on the corners. I believe, Commissioner Erickson, that there's one corner there on Charles Street that has a hydrant, and that doesn't have a curb there, so there won't be a sign there necessarily, I don't think. I think we talked about that as well.
Right, and I think there's a hydrant in one spot and a driveway in the other spot on one of the other approaches.
Yeah.
So the signs will be placed where necessary, essentially.
Where necessary. It gives Sergeant Boudreau the flexibility.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Counselor Squalia?
Commissioner Erickson, I agree with the need for this, but I was just wondering on the thought process of the 50 feet around each corner. Is that a kind of a standard measurement for no parking at intersections, or why 50 feet?
Well, when we were out there, we measured off sight lines needed for someone sitting at that intersection looking both ways, and 50 feet was the number that we came up with that would give good sight lines to far enough up the road that a driver could ascertain whether there's a car coming or not, stay stopped there or proceed forward. I've seen the number 50 used at a lot of intersections similar to that. I think it just happens to be both standard practice and it worked well for this particular intersection. If it was a higher speed road, I think that number would probably be a lot larger. So give more people, people more time to see a car coming at 100 miles an hour versus the 40 that they do on Charles Street.
Thank you. All right, I'm in favor.
Make a motion, we accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Approved. And I just lost my paperwork here for the final. Final petition, 16522, Councilor Sam Squalier and Councilor Derek Cruz for a traffic study to improve bicycle and pedestrian safety at the Twin City Rail Trail crossing at Bemis Road and Water Street to determine the best solutions for improving safety. No right turn on red on Bemis Road, turning right onto Water Street, and on Water Street, turning right onto Bemis Road, or regular rapid flashing beacon. I agree, this is a dangerous intersection.
Yeah.
And probably does need to be addressed.
Yep, so I agree. I'd also like to read an email that I got from Tom Skorowski, Executive Director of Community Development and Planning, who, as you know, his office has been working with Mass DOT on this particular Twin City Rail Trail for 20 plus years. So he says, Community Development and Planning wholeheartedly supports efforts to improve pedestrian safety at this intersection. I'll defer to the traffic safety professionals on the city team for best solution. However, currently, per the rail trail designs, crossings occur during the pedestrian push-button phase where all vehicles come to a stop. An RRFB was not deemed to be appropriate at this crossing, I believe, given the proximity to the signalized intersection. So on that note, I'm not sure if this is the appropriate solution. I do think a no right turn on red is necessary in this location. This has been raised by city officials to Mass DOT's project team and has also been discussed by the Twin City Rail Trail Association, which is the nonprofit coalition that advocates for and supports the trail. This would help enhance pedestrian safety in this location, both for trail users and the general public. So I agree with Tom's comments there. I've heard from a number of people who've witnessed similar type of safety issues with cars taking that right from Water Street onto Bemis while the pedestrian walk signal is activated and all the cars are stopped, because someone that's taking that right turn can't necessarily see that far down onto Bemis. So I think it's a practical common sense solution there. All the vehicles are supposed to be stopped based on the red light activated by the pedestrian push signal. If you eliminate the turn on red on Water Street and then up on Bemis going uphill towards Water Street, I think that eliminates all the issues there. It causes all the cars that could potentially cause conflict with pedestrians crossing to stop and not allow that situation to occur.
So do we want to refer this to safety? Or,
if you prefer to do so, I think you could. I don't think you necessarily need to. At this point, Mass DOT is aware of it. We're working with them to resolve it. I think getting this approved is just going to make it easier for us to work with them. At the end of the day, though, it's a city-owned intersection, city-owned signal. Even though Mass DOT currently owns the project, they'll be turning it over to the city at some point in the very near future. So I think we're well within our jurisdiction here to make this change at this intersection to address what is a critical pedestrian safety issue, I think. In my opinion, it was an oversight on DOT during their design phase. They have a signalized intersection there. It should have been a no-brainer during a traffic study conducted as part of the design to add that type of signage there. Someone must have made a mistake. I can't really see any other reason for it. They added in the pedestrian push button there, so I don't understand why they wouldn't have added that signage too.
any questions?
Hi. So obviously, I agree with the no right turn on red, but the concerns brought up from the residents of this particular proposal is that how are we going to enforce it? I know you're not the enforcement arm of the city, but maybe you can speak to how the city would enforce the new no right turn on reds at that intersection.
So I'd have to work with Sergeant Boudreau and the traffic unit with FPD to try to, have them help us with enforcement. I know RRFBs were suggested in the petition. Those aren't really the appropriate solution for this because it's at a signalized intersection. There's already a pedestrian activated control for that intersection. By adding in RRFBs, you're adding in too much for drivers to pay attention there because they're supposed to be looked up at the light, and now by introducing an RRFB, you'd get them to be looking at these flashing beacons, and there's just too much to distract drivers coming into the intersection and be kind of like a sensory overload. So you want to keep things simple and straightforward. If people press the button, it activates the traffic signal that stops all the cars. If we add the signage to prevent the right turn on reds, then I think we should be all set. And with FPD's assistance, we can make sure that that's enforced. So I would amend this to, maybe DPW works with FPD to address enforcement issues or something along those lines, just to get it on record that, I need to talk to Sergeant Boudreau about it.
On the note of amending, so the petition actually calls for a traffic study. Do you believe that we need a traffic study, or it sounds like you're in favor of the no right turn on red? Should we keep that language?
So I know I knew that this was going to be a question that was asked, especially given the next petition that's held, and it's been held because we're requiring a traffic study. However, that is removing a no turn on red versus this is adding a no turn on red. And in my opinion, this addition of a no turn on red is a practical solution to an obvious problem. I don't think it warrants a traffic study. I mean, we could spend $20,000 on a traffic study that'll tell us the exact same thing, but I think, being practical about this, I don't think one's really warranted. We can work with Mass DOT just to get their buy-in on it and make sure that they don't want to see a traffic study prior to basically them handing us the keys to the rail trail. But I think they're going to say the same thing. So, if you want to amend the petition to read something like that, I'd be in favor of that as well.
Move to amend.
I have
Sure.
Councilor Schultz.
Yes, I have a question. I certainly agree with the no turn on red in this location, Commissioner Erickson. I guess my question is, where is that? Have you thought about where you're going to locate that no turn on red? Because like you just said, there's so much going on there. You want to make sure they see it.
Right.
It's almost like we need to hang it right under the traffic light or something of that nature, but.
I think that's what I'd propose to do, Councilor. I think I'd mount it on the traffic signal mast arm, basically right next to the light. We see that at a few different intersections across the state. I'm sure I could use Google Street View and find a few examples. And I might even want to do two, just because it's a pretty sensitive safety issue. One mounted on the mast arm and then one mounted prior to the intersection on the right-hand side there.
Right, a huge safety issue. So yeah, we want the sign to be noticed, definitely, so, yeah. Okay, I'm glad you're in agreement with that, Commissioner Erickson, because it's the bigger the sign and the location is going to be very important there.
Agreed.
Thank you. Councilor Boishman.
I got two questions. We get a right on red, no right on red on Water Street coming from Market Basket headed towards over the bridge. Cars go through there all the time, right on red. They just keep going. I'm in favor of this petition. Don't get me wrong, I'm not in favor, but I like to know what other communities are doing that have rail trails or bike trails where they're going through the corners and that. Has anybody checked? Because I called up Tom today to ask him a question on this, because I didn't, I don't know how you're going to stop. Somebody's coming down Water Street, and they don't see that small little sign, they're just going to go right around that corner.
Right.
And that's a terrible intersection, because I was talking to Tom, and if they're coming up Bemis Road to take a left, 4 cars, and then you got a line of traffic. So.
Right, so I don't have any examples in other communities where a similar situation has occurred. I could look around to see if there's a similar configuration somewhere else. I mean, most rail trails don't necessarily cross through such an urban environment like that, so close to an intersection like Water Street at Bemis. But we could certainly evaluate our options and see what other communities are doing before we do anything.
Have you thought about putting an arm out there where when you press the button, the arm comes down like they do in air mass to just stop the traffic and the people cross?
Like with railroad crossings?
Yeah.
I don't know if anything like that's ever been used to stop a right turn on red, but we could look at options like that.
It's not that I'm being negative. When I sit on Laurel Street and I'm waiting in line and all of a sudden I can't go because the guy coming from Market Basket or Water Street just took all the spots up and you can't move. And they're still going and the light's red and I get the green. So I find it very hard to see, even the police department, to sit there all day and watch somebody coming down there taking a right on red and saying, we solved the problem. I don't think you're going to solve the problem with that. I
Right, and
really
that
don't. That's
kinda-
my opinion.
No, I agree, and that kind of speaks to the enforcement issue that Councilor Squalia brought up. The other option there is looking at the traffic signal timing and increasing the delay between someone getting a red rather, and someone on the actual trail getting a pedestrian crossing safe signal. So, we can look at a few different options here to make sure that this is addressed.
All right, that's it. I yield the floor.
I think that intersection, because it's not been addressed for so many years, it's going to be a learning curve for everybody. So no matter what you do there, it's going to be a learning curve. You're going to put no turn on red, people are still going to turn on red. So it's just going to be a matter of time for people to adjust to it. I don't think you're going to be able to have somebody sitting there all the time. It's just a matter of people paying attention. So a sign, even if it's one of those solar ones that blink, that really pop, would be a good option. But I think too many signs, people just stop reading them after a while. If you have a cluster of signs, which one do you read? You know?
Right, and that's my concern with
Yeah.
installing RRFBs at the intersection, but we could look at different options for the no right turn on red sign itself. I don't know what's available out there, if they make one that's got like a flashing yellow border or something like that, like they do with the stop signs, like we have over at Oak Hill at Franklin Road.
Right.
We could certainly look at those options and see what's out there, draw drivers' attention to that no right turn on red sign.
Thank you.
Move to amend the petition to strike the need for traffic study and strike the rectangular rapid flashing beacon.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. And a petition held,
And move to approve the amended
sorry,
petition.
I'm sorry, and approve the amended petition.
Second. Or I approve, I motioned it.
You motioned.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, aye, it's
You're getting
approved.
me all mixed up here.
I know, I'm sorry.
So we'll install the no right turn on red. We'll look at options for that signage,
Yeah.
and we'll look at the signal timing between the
Yeah.
approaches getting a red and that pedestrian crossing signal activating.
Great. That sounds great.
Good, nice solution. And petition held from the last meeting, 08920, Councilor Bernie Schultz and resident Alec Freeman, to remove the no turn on red sign at the intersection of John T. Citrino Memorial Drive and Water Street. This has been held several times.
So the funding source that I mentioned earlier for the traffic study related to the four-way stop at Game On, I mentioned that $100,000 worth of funding to address traffic signals. I think this would also qualify to be funded out of that pot of money. So I'd like to finally address this with a traffic study conducted under funding from that pot.
Councilor Boishman?
One question. Out of the $100,000, and you're saying, what's your traffic study cost, 20,000?
Depending on the level, I might be able to get one done a little bit cheaper, like 10 to 15K, just high level.
So let's just say 20, let's be, for being friends, 20, that's $40,000.
Yeah.
Now, you know, and I know, and everybody else here knows, that the singles on Bemis Road and Renusnock Road, and the ones further down the road are pretty old. They're always breaking. And you even said at the last meeting that they cost a lot of money to repair.
Yeah.
And that, are we replacing those on?
So Bemis out Winoosknock, those signals are relatively new. You know, they're old by comparison to the rest of the signals, but they're some of the newer signals since they were
I'm talking
placed
about
at
I
the
made a mistake, South Street and Renusnock Road.
South Street in Winoosknock.
That one there, because what happens with that one, it backs the traffic all the way up to Electric Ave and around the corner. And I know because I see it when they come home at 7:30 in the morning, and it's pretty far back. And sometime, when I seen it, the light doesn't work. That one doesn't work that good. Sometime, not all the time, but sometimes, because I have to call Gary early in the morning, and he tells me, it's only 7 o'clock. Why are you calling me? Right, Gary? You know it. And the one on Kmart. Those two are old, and you said we didn't have the funding to replace those because we're doing all this other work. And now we're gonna take the 100 grand and we're gonna do two traffic studies.
So the intention with that 100 grand was to replace the signals at Summer Street and Harvard Street and Mechanic and Main,
No, synchronize them back up.
synchronize the lights.
It's Academy and Main.
Yep.
The ones at Academy and Main are on, they're not technical to each other.
Right, and I believe the quote that we got was 60K total for both of those projects, and then the leftover was going to be used towards, you know, figuring out some of these traffic issues at some of these other intersections. So I think that what we're proposing kind of fits in with that whole overall plan. I don't know when we'll be able to replace all the lights at, say, you know, the Kmart Plaza or anything like that, but with the Kmart Plaza, there's also a huge vacant store, and there's probably going to be some sort of development that goes on there within the next, I'd say, 5 years. It could be condos, it could be some sort of a shopping center, and I'd assume that that intersection will get lighting upgrades as part of that development, and if not, then we can look at doing something in tandem to that development, but it might significantly change traffic patterns too. So I'd suggest holding off on that until we figure out what's going on with the old Kmart building. So I don't necessarily want to spend that 100K there right now. The lights south at Winoosknock, I wasn't aware that that was such a big issue out there, but we can add it at our list of things to look at with that pot of money, though.
The only reason why I say that is because the previous commissioner told me that in these work, they're pretty old. That's what he told me, quote unquote.
Okay.
Nick.
This was south at Winoosknock you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
Just to add, I believe it was like $60,000 that Commissioner Bosanetto said that they needed at South and Winoosknock to repair those lights. Something like 60 grand.
Good to know. I mean, unfortunately, he didn't involve me in 99% of these conversations, so I don't know what I don't know, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm not finding fault with you. I just want to make sure, don't get me wrong, I'll support you. You know, I know because Bernie's been waiting forever for his petition, and I'll support you what you want to do, but I just don't want to take all the $100,000, and all of a sudden, my residents can't get to work, and they got to go halfway around China. They can't get to work because the lights on electric on the Winoosknock Road is not working right.
No, I understand that. It's not like we're proposing to take the traffic signal money and spend them on something else like, you know, new carpets and floors at DPW. We're still spending the money on intersections for traffic-related issues that your constituents are going to benefit from, so I still don't see it as a waste of money. But some of these issues have been kind of hanging out there for a while and need to be addressed and haven't been addressed because of lack of funding. You know, now that I know about the south at Winoosknock, that's certainly something that we can take a look at too, and try to help prioritize the limited resources that we do have.
All right. I yield the floor.
Okay, so we make a motion to amend?
I think it needs to be held pending the traffic study.
But didn't we want to,
Yeah, we should approve a traffic study to determine.
okay, all right.
Is that what we should do?
Yes, I believe so.
Let's move to amend to include to approve a traffic study to determine the feasibility of a no turn on red of feasibility for removing the no turn on red at that intersection.
Right, so we were amending.
Second it.
Second. All in favor?
I
Aye.
It's approved now.
move to approve
Move
the
the
amended
amendment.
petition.
I let Bernie say aye.
Aye.
Second.
Second.
It's unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll get those 2 traffic studies underway. Counselor, I'll look at that late.
All right, thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Have a good evening.